Hello, I'm Amy, and this is the first video on my new channel. And today we're going to be talking about me and how I've been since I was trans. I mean, since I came out as trans, of course. I was always trans, but since I came out full time. So basically, I was born in the 80s, late 80s, grew up in the 90s. Trans wasn't really a thing that was talked about because of Section 28, of course. No LGBT education was allowed in schools. They're trying to go at the TERFs would have you go back to Section 28 now because they don't want trans things in schools, especially people like the transgender trend, for example, and Stephanie Arai Davis, who is actually not qualified at all to talk about trans stuff. Anyway, enough about. We're not going to get into TERFs today. This is my introduction. Anyway, I first came out as trans, of course, when I was 18, and at that point, I'd already been kicked out of the house, my family home, for 2 years. I grew up on a council estate in West Norwich, and, you know, you'd get ridiculed for literally anything. I mean, I came out as bisexual at 15 years of age, growing up on a council estate. That really made things difficult for me. I'd get teased for it, and I'd get teased for it, and I daren't come out as trans at school, obviously, because of the crap that I thought that I'd get doing it. But I went to college to try and redo my GCSEs. Later found out, of course, when I tried to do maths GCSE, well, successfully did my maths GCSE about 3 or 4 years ago now, that I have dyslexia. So, of course, that does make things a little difficult. And so you just have to bear with me. I get mental blocks sometimes, and I have speech problems and stuff, and I'm very anxious because I've never made these videos before, and obviously because of the fact that I got that negative comment on the experimental video which I did. Anyway, I tried to come out when I was 18. I was a lot skinnier then. I was a size 8, and I was wearing cute little tops and, you know, and stuff that people had given me. I was wearing all these lovely little tops and jeans and stuff, and I was getting along happily with it when I was 18, 19. Family didn't like it so much. My mum, she was iffy with it, and then it was all going quite well, to be honest, for me anyway. No discrimination whatsoever was happening. The very thing that made me stop was the fact that I met a guy in a bar in Norwich one night, obviously dressed as a girl, but I had a lovely lace top on, tartan skirt, and there you go. Typical me, really. And this guy and I returned to my flat. I was a bit pissed, yeah, but he raped me, and that threw me way back in the closet. And my mum, she wasn't very sympathetic. She was like, well, no wonder you got raped if you were dressed like that. So I couldn't do anything at that point. I was crying, and I was struggling, and everything was really bad. for me at that point, I was not in a good headspace, and I really struggled for the next sort of 2.5 years. My parents were divorced by then, and they were all seeing each other, different partners and that. And I mean, when my mum remarried, I went to their wedding in guy mode. But when my dad remarried, I'd come out as trans again for the second time. This time, fed up with having detransitioned. At that point, I just decided that I couldn't do any more, and that I couldn't sort of like I couldn't take any more, and I just had to transition, because if I didn't, I was going to end up dead or something. Suicide would probably have been the next step. So I came out there and then, February 2010 that was. I joined a support group run by a youth project in Norwich, and was one of the founder members, and we had like sort of monthly meetings with other trans people, and I knew that I wasn't alone, and I found other trans people. At that point, I also found out that non-binary people existed, because I'd met them, which was awesome, of course. And that was good. Anyway, 4th of June 2010 was the day that I changed my name to Amy, from my dead name, of course. The deed poll is there in the kitchen somewhere, and that's pretty difficult at that point for me to. I was getting ridiculed, but obviously not being on hormones, not passing. I don't really think I passed now, but I don't really give a monkeys at this point. I was so stressed, and this is stressing me out quite a bit doing this video, to be honest. Because my nerves are shot, and I do apologise. Anyway, in February 2011, I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. I mean, I was technically diagnosed with Asperger's, but since we found out that Hans Asperger is actually a Nazi collaborator, I don't like using that diagnosis anymore. So I'm going to say autism spectrum disorder in future, even though really it's not a disorder, but that's the diagnosis, closest thing that I can go with. I'll just say I'm autistic. That's brilliant. Anyway, so I mean, there's not really a lot that we can say about my transition. I mean, I'm into dress, I dress in dresses and skirts and stuff. I don't wear jeans. It's not because that I don't think they're feminine or anything, and I'm trying to be some sort of stereotype. I literally don't feel comfortable in them. I didn't even like wearing jeans when I was a dude anyway, or when I was presenting as a dude. And I always like softer fabrics because of the autism and sensory disorders and stuff like that. But it's, you know, scary when you're that early in your transition, and I'm literally walking out the door looking like a man in a dress and with makeup on, and it's so super scary. And actually I got less crap then than I do now from the TERFs, because it literally was such a scary time at that point. And it took me a while to convince my GP to refer me to the GIC, but of course they didn't in those days. They referred you locally to a psychiatrist who was a bit of an arsewipe, and then they referred you on to, and then I got referred on to Charing Cross from there, which is now under the control of the Tavistock and Portman Clinic. At that point it was West London Mental Health. So then a couple of years of appointments, me going down to London and back, and that when I had to go and see psychiatrists and stuff. And obviously I turned up wearing dresses and everything because that is my style. I mean, if I was one of these girls, like my ex Kat, for example, who I think I saw her in a skirt twice, then I'd have rolled with that. But that is not me. I'm what you see here. I'm wearing this lovely top here, and that's what. Anyway, so a couple of things then went on after that, like hormones were tricky. I started hormones on the 13th. No, not the 13th, the 5th of September. Why did I have it in my head that it was the 13th? 5th September 2013, and I now have these brilliant boobs now here. There we are. And I still haven't had surgery because I went to see the surgeon and he said I'm overweight. So, yeah. I think that because we're going up to a certain point in time here, that we're going to have to do this in two halves. So, just bear with me. I will be back. I will post this first, of course, and then film the other one while this one is uploading. So please bear with me, and I will be back in very short amount of time.